One of the things that you brought up there that I think people don't realize, and this has a multifaceted factor in how well that you're going to do and be successful, and not just in bodybuilding, but in life, is the mental aspect of it. And what I don't think people tend to grasp or understand, this has a couple levels to it. So the PED use alone can have a direct effect on the mind, and a lot of people don't realize that. But the stress and the strain, and I've always said this, when I've looked my best, I have felt my worst. Every time I can go back and show you pictures, I've got 8-packs, you can see roadmap veins, and I can think back and go, damn, if I didn't feel the worst of the worst, I was the biggest asshole. I was terrible to be around, starving, just the shortest temper, and I'm already impatient as it is. So you can imagine. So what you were talking about there, when people look at you and they go, oh, damn, look how good they look. Like, I don't think they have any concept of what the entirety is, because if you just the mental side of things, and I'm not talking about the stress and strain of the training and the diet, the strain alone on your head can cause you so many problems. It can mess up relationships. It can mess up your work. It can mess up every aspect of your life. So I think what you're doing is important. And that what you talk about it is the off season and the just recalibration of your mentals as well as your physicals.
Yeah, for sure. Because this is why I feel like I'm in such a good position, because I can reflect and I can go, okay, like you just described there, some of the things that I also had, in the early days, I got this sense of hierarchy to think that, I actually did a reel about this yesterday, that I was better than people off the back of thinking, why doesn't everyone do this? This seems like, an opportunity to excel yourself as a human being. And I often think of it almost like, you are your own advertisement. So why wouldn't you want to work on your physique? But then I realized not everyone wants to do it, and it is fucking hard. But when I look back, because of never having control in my life, I found bodybuilding. It was like, I directly control this. So I eat this for this. I train to do this. And I found it unearthed a neuroticism, and I would have been hard to live with. Now, it got me accolades, and, I've done well in bodybuilding, like you say, which is still a bit weird to say out loud. I'm sure you can understand where I'm coming from there, but
sure.
It's like now I'm having to unpick, or I have had to unpick, my relationship with food, my relationship with my body, my relationship with people outside of bodybuilding, and reestablish who I am as a person. Because for sure it would be, this is Sarah, she's Miss Universe, or this is Sarah, she's a bodybuilder. And it was like, who am I beyond a physique? And that has been gnarly, Dylan, the food relationship in particular. It's some of the things I would do in the past. Every waking thought was, how can I be better as a bodybuilder? And it was for me, it wasn't for anyone else. I couldn't give a fuck about, social media and whatever. It's so hit and miss. You cannot rely on that to get you through something like a prep.
No.
However, I just realized I'm trying to prove myself to myself, and I'm unsure why, and then digging into the trauma, etc. I get it. So this is where, I hope to help people understand that prep is not just a challenge. Go and do something else. It's not as simple as, unless maybe you want to step on stage and it's just like, I want to have a nice time. But it's savage being judged. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I unfortunately, I do know what you mean, and I hate the fact that I do. And you were talking about the relationship with food, and that alone, I don't think people understand that either. You see these bodybuilders, they look huge, or people that are like, when you're so cut and so ripped, and it's like, oh my gosh, I wish I could do that. But I don't know that you actually do, because I don't know that if you're an outsider looking in, like the consequence of what goes on. I've had a struggle with food since I was 11 years old, and I'm 41. So that's 30 years. That's 3/4 of my life that has been this constant struggle and battle, and this, I have to eat perfect and I have to do this. And now it's not for anybody else. Now it's just because of me, so that's like what you were saying. It's not about the social media or who's looking at you or who's saying what. Now it's like, if I I can tell when I gain a fraction of a pound, you know, and it's insane. And I know it. And I'm finally getting to the point now where I'm kind of getting over it. Not yet, but you know, it's like, it's a never ending battle. And that's just part of it. I mean, then there's the, oh my gosh, I missed a day, or I'm injured, or I'm sick and I've got to train. And you're only just setting yourself back, you know, throughout it all. And so I don't think people realize, like some people like you and I, the mentalities that the actual mental battles just with ourselves is very, very excruciating, and it's tedious, and it can take control of your life if you let it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you know, things like if I was going out for a meal in off season, you know, I'd go in a toilet or go down the alley and phone the restaurant to make sure they've got plain chicken breasts in and that they've got the things in that I could have. You know, when I first got with my partner, Matt, we've been together around 22 months. I was still doing things and almost like, you know, self-restricting and hiding things. And I'm happy to talk about that. And we've got to a point where I don't do that anymore. And it was hard at first to actually take ownership for that, right? So, you know, I'm in off season. I got really, really peeled for my last show and needed to be putting the weight on, addressing everything health-wise, etc. And I'd still try and find little loopholes because you become very clever. Now, I don't think that I've ever had a food disorder per se, but it was very much disordered eating and behavior. And you don't realize you're doing it. And it's crazy. Like, we learn as competitors, and this is why I talk about it, we learn ways to manipulate things or self-restrict or do more cardio or all of these things. People don't understand that you go into a prep and these things can be unearthed because you find that control. And this is why I actually speak to people when they come to me and say, I want to do a prep, or a friend or whatever. I say it like we're talking now. And I think that sometimes people think, you know, why are you being so negative? And it's like, this is what can happen. If I'm taking you for a prep, this is my responsibility to do this in the best and safest way possible. But it is not healthy. It is extreme. No. It might look cool, but the places I've visited, Dylan, and it sounds like you've been similar, it's dark. You are alone in the dark. You are literally existing. Now, this is a choice. So I won't moan. I won't be fucking going, oh, I'm hungry, etc., etc. I'm choosing to do this. And there's people in the world that do not have access to food, and it fucks me off when people do moan about it. However, it's fucking rough at times. So people need to understand, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why it's important that we talk about this. Now, for me, I don't even compete or do anything. It's just an everyday thing. So it can be even worse for people that are competing. And there's just a lot of pressures, and there's a lot of outside distraction, internal distraction. And there's nobody's being negative about it. It's just called living in fucking reality and not fantasy land.